I moved to a new town for work, hoping to start fresh and leave behind the chaos of my past life. The job was a great opportunity, and I was eager to make it work. I found a small, cozy apartment that fit my budget perfectly. It had a view of the park, which made it seem like the ideal place to settle down for a while. The first few weeks were uneventful. I settled into my routine. Work during the day and quiet evenings spent unwinding with a book or watching TV. My neighbors were mostly quiet too, just as I liked it. I occasionally caught glimpses of them in the hallway or at the mailboxes, but nobody made an effort to connect. It felt perfect to me, just the solitude I needed. Then, one evening as I was preparing dinner, I noticed a figure standing in the park outside my window. I thought it was just someone out for a stroll, enjoying the cool evening air. But as I glanced over again, I realized the figure had not moved. I leaned closer to the window to get a better look. It was a man, standing perfectly still, facing my apartment. I squinted, trying to see his features, but the fading light obscured his face. My heart raced as I wondered if he was watching me. I quickly dismissed the thought. Surely, it was just a coincidence. After a few minutes, he finally turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows. I felt a slight wave of relief wash over me, but a nagging discomfort lingered. I shrugged it off, attributing it to my imagination running wild. The next night, as I settled down to watch a movie, I felt a prickling sensation at the back of my neck. My instinct screamed that someone was watching me again. I hesitated, feeling the tension build in my chest. Slowly, I turned towards the window. To my horror, I saw the same man standing there once more, perfectly still, staring directly at my apartment. This time, panic surged within me. I felt exposed, vulnerable, and completely terrified. I backed away from the window, my heart pounding. I had to get a grip on myself. Maybe he was just a passerby who happened to stop for a moment. I quickly grabbed my phone and called a friend, needing to distract myself from the fear gnawing at my mind. "Hey, is everything okay?" my friend asked when she answered. "Not really," I replied, trying to sound casual. "I think someone's outside my apartment." "Outside? What do you mean?" she asked, concerned. "There's a guy in the park. He's just standing there, staring at my place. It's freaking me out. Do you want me to come over?" she offered. "No, it's fine. I think I'm just being paranoid," I said, trying to brush it off. But the unease settled deeper into my gut. I ended the call and kept my curtains tightly drawn, refusing to look outside again. The following day felt surreal. I went to work and engaged with my tasks, but my mind kept drifting back to the man in the park. I tried to shake it off as mere paranoia, but every time I passed my window, I felt his eyes on me. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. On the weekend, I decided to take a walk in the park. I wanted to confront my fears and prove to myself that I was overreacting. I took a deep breath, reminding myself it was just a park, a place meant for relaxation and fun. But as I walked, I couldn't help but scan the area for any sign of him. There he was. I spotted him sitting on a bench, watching me. My stomach dropped, and I felt the urge to turn back immediately. I forced myself to continue walking, my heart racing. I made sure to keep my head down and not make eye contact. I passed him, trying to act nonchalant, but my palms were sweaty, and I felt dizzy. The moment I was far enough away, I turned back to see him still sitting there, staring at me. I quickly left the park, feeling the weight of his gaze pressing down on me. That evening, I made sure to double-check my locks and leave the lights on, hoping the brightness would deter any potential creepers. The next few days passed uneventfully, but the discomfort was ever present. I noticed that I began avoiding the windows, fearful of seeing him again. I even considered moving, but the thought of starting over again filled me with dread. I had just settled into this place and didn't want to uproot myself again. Then, one afternoon, I returned home to find a note slipped under my door. My heart raced as I bent down to pick it up. In shaky handwriting, it read, I see you. I felt cold dread wash over me. I looked around the hallway, expecting to see him lurking nearby, but there was nothing, just silence. My hands trembled as I tore the note into pieces and threw them in the trash. I decided I had to take action. I called the police, explaining my situation. They listened patiently, but I could hear the skepticism in their voices. "We can't do much without proof," one officer said. "If you see him again or feel threatened, please call us back." I felt a mix of frustration and fear. What did I have to do to be taken seriously? I spent the rest of the evening pacing my apartment, anxiety bubbling within me. I felt trapped and helpless. That night, I barely slept, jumping at every little noise. I locked my bedroom door and kept a lamp on, just in case. My phone was close at hand, ready to dial for help if needed. I considered reaching out to my friends again, but I felt embarrassed. I was starting to sound paranoid, and I didn't want to burden anyone. Over the next few days, I continued to see the man in the park. Each time he appeared, it was like a punch to my gut. He never approached me or made any direct contact, but his presence felt like a dark cloud hanging over me. I started documenting everything. I wrote down the dates and times I saw him, the details of his appearance, and any strange occurrences. It felt like I was trying to piece together a puzzle, and it gave me a small sense of control. One afternoon, I returned from work and saw him standing in front of my building, just staring up at my window. I felt my breath catch in my throat. I stood frozen, panic flooding my senses. Did he know which apartment was mine? I ducked behind a tree, trying to gather my thoughts. I wanted to run inside, but I didn't want him to see me. When I finally felt brave enough to move, I sprinted to the entrance, my heart racing. I glanced back and saw he had turned, walking away. I barely made it inside before slamming the door shut behind me. That night, I called my friend again, desperation creeping into my voice. "I need you to come over," I said, trying to keep my tone steady. "I'm really scared." "Full of what?" she asked, concern growing. "There's a guy who's been watching me. He's always in the park, and I think he's been following me," I admitted, feeling a lump form in my throat. "I'll be there in 10 minutes, she promised. When she arrived, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I let her in and we settled on the couch, both of us speaking in hushed tones. I recounted everything that had happened, my voice trembling with fear. "Have you thought about talking to your landlord?" she suggested. "Maybe he can help." I nodded, realizing I hadn't even considered that. "Yeah, I'll do that tomorrow." We spent the evening together, her presence providing some comfort, but deep down, the fear still lingered, gnawing at me. The next morning, I made my way to the landlord's office. I knocked on the door and waited anxiously. When he opened it, I felt a mix of hope and fear. "Hey, I wanted to talk about something that's been bothering me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "What's going on?" he asked, looking concerned. I explained my situation, detailing the man in the park and the notes I had received. To my surprise, he nodded understandingly. "I've seen him too," he said. "He's a regular in the park. I'll talk to the other tenants and see if anyone else has noticed him." Feeling a little better, I returned home with a sense of determination. I was tired of feeling like a victim. If I took control, maybe I could make him go away. Over the next few weeks, I made a point to stay visible. I walked in the park more often, refusing to let him dictate my life. But each time I saw him, a knot tightened in my stomach. One evening, I was sitting on my balcony when I spotted him again, lurking at the edge of the park, watching. My heart raced, and I quickly ducked down, hiding behind the railing. I felt a mix of anger and fear. How dare he invade my space like this? I grabbed my phone and decided to record him, wanting to document his behavior. I pressed the button and aimed the camera, shaking with adrenaline. But before I could get a good shot, he turned and looked directly at me. My heart dropped as I froze, the camera still rolling. For a split second, our eyes locked, and I felt a rush of terror. I quickly ended the recording and retreated inside, my breath coming in short gasps. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling of dread. I decided to take the footage to the police the next day, hoping it would be enough to take action. When I met with the officers, they reviewed the video, and their expressions shifted. "We can look into this," one of them said, jotting down details. "But you need to keep documenting everything." I nodded, feeling a small glimmer of hope. Maybe I wouldn't have to face this alone anymore. Days turned into weeks, and the police were able to identify him. They told me he had a history of similar behavior, which both frightened and relieved me. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining things. Eventually, they made contact with him, warning him to stay away from my apartment and the park. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, but I knew it wouldn't be easy to let go of the fear. In the following weeks, I started to reclaim my life. I spent time with friends, visited the park during the day, and found small joys in my daily routine. I still had moments of anxiety, especially when I saw someone who looked like him, but I was determined to move forward. One evening, I sat on my balcony, feeling the cool breeze against my skin. I looked out over the park, and for the first time in months, I felt a sense of peace. I had faced my fears and fought back. I knew I was stronger than I had been before. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the trees, I took a deep breath, savoring the moment. I had emerged from the shadows, ready to embrace my life once more. The silent observer no longer had power over me. I had reclaimed my space, my peace, and my strength.